happened, and we were maintaining the Swiggy's backend and its platform. And once it started generating that hype, it gave huge satisfaction to us. What we worked on is loved by so many people, and so many people are using it. It does that. Did people, I have a question on CCD. Did people ask you for discount coupons on it? The people you knew?
I don't remember about discount coupons, but they would say that, please go and tell them that this cappuccino or whatever in this particular outlet is not good. And, that kind of thing would come a lot. Like, I think then you just become like that, a personal receptacle for all their CCD complaints. So that would happen. It would happen to everybody universally, not just me, everyone.
Right. Amazing.
And people you meet from across the country. It could be anybody, anywhere,
Amazing. Yeah, that's what happens at times. So moving on to next thing, you worked in Mehrangarh Fort. We want to know the story.
Okay. It was in fairly early days. I worked as a freelancer. It was a wonderful project because it was very challenging, So there was a desert botanical garden and park being set up. And what I had to do was kind of create the logo and the signage. But the circumstances there were quite adverse and quite difficult. So A, there was a budget constraint. B, we were working literally in the middle of a very desert-like area, right? Like very, very arid. Then the level of skill was fairly low. So normally when you expect someone to carve something that you have designed, you're expecting a far higher level of skill. These were a community called the Khanwalias, which are a local Rajasthani community who are kind of warriors and they work with rock. And so what we had to do was to kind of adapt ourselves to those conditions. One was that we had to, there was a medieval pole, right? A pole as in a gate through which we pass. And that was maybe 500-600 years old. And we had to put the signage on that pole, So how are you going to do the signage in a way that is respectful of what you're building it on and what you're building it for? And it's respectful of the heritage of this place and, sort of in the way that it comes with that heritage of hundreds of years, right? So the signage was designed in that way with those kind of materials, so with local rocks. So we went out of our way to find a person who would do mosaic out of this kind of rock, or rock that went sort of aesthetically really well with these colors and these stones. So there was that. And then there was, little things like the plants all had numbers. And the numbers were going to be hand carved by the women on the site, the Khanwalia women on the site. So they were going to make mistakes, there was no laser machine that would give you those perfect numbers. So then what I did was to create a font, the numbers, and I'm not sure if I did the letters as well. Yes, the letters as well. Where the form itself is so forgiving, that if you make a few mistakes or if your hand slips a little bit or it chips a little bit, it's still going to look good. So that was the challenge, and the challenge was actually to sort of do your work and do your work as a graphic designer and to sort of put the wayfinding signage out there and everything, but to do it in a way that is very respectful of the place that you're working for.
You worked as a leader as well. I mean, you looked after your team as well.
Yes. So I was sort of like the graphic designer on the team, and I think here it was about how you can blend into the environment and the surroundings. And it really challenges your understanding of the place, Do you really have that understanding and respect for the place and what it takes to set up a rock garden in the middle of the desert in a resource constrained environment in a super arid place where, money, skill, everything is going to be a challenge. So actually that project taught me a lot, again, in terms of other things in life as well as in design. It's always like that, And I think the part that I had the most fun with was the washroom signages for men and women. And I thought, hey, I'm going to kind of break away from the usual pictogram of man and pictogram of woman. And I did the feet instead. So, like Marwari and Rajasthani men and women, if you just look down and you look at their feet, it's so beautiful because the women, the ghagra is kind of covering feet and there's just their toes sticking out and their toes have these beautiful toe rings and anklets and things like that. And the ghagra itself has so much embellishment on it. And the men come with their dhotis and they come with these um, beautiful shoes. Sometimes they just kind of elongated, sometimes they little turned up. So, you know, so I kind of focused on that instead of the usual pictographs. So I think for me that was the big takeaway, that I could do that.
That's an interesting story. I've been to Mehrangarh Fort, so maybe I've seen your work. I don't. I went in 2019, and that means I have had touch point with your work there. So
Amazing.
I don't remember that thing with the washrooms. Yeah, that's an amazing idea. Did you get the feedback from people that they could understand that it's men or it's women by looking at the cloth? What about the foreigners who were coming there? Did they understand that this is Gagra and this is a man's feet?
So from what I know, there was never any confusion about which is the men and which is the women when the signages were up. So I think that's a sign that works, like functionally it's working. But I think no, you know what? I think that's a great question, Sanchit. But I think that the one who got the most pleasure out of this signage was me. Because other people are like, okay, that's men, that's women. I need to go to the washroom, I'm happy. But I actually got like very deep satisfaction out of being able to execute something like that. That was just so different, for a washroom sign.
I'm a designer as well, but I'm an analyst as well. So my mind works like that. I'm sorry
Right.
about that.
That's why you're asking me all these questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I remember this quote by Quentin Tarantino, if you have heard this quote, that I make movies for myself and everyone else is invited. So so your statement was like that. So it's great that you worked for something to your satisfaction and you say that everyone else is invited. That's a great way to work as well.
Yeah, I think maybe we all have these moments, right? At some point in our lives, like no matter what our profession or what we do.